we were living, we were in another downtown ward, and I got a new companion. And we were living, one of the counselors in the mission presidency, Ariel Nieves was his name. And he's been a member of the church for many years. And so he knew all the people in the Montevideo. I think it was a stake. It was only one stake at that time. And he got accommodations for the missionaries so that you didn't have to rent your own apartment every time or whatever. And they just had these places where they had 4 missionaries or 6 missionaries, a couple places, and then sometimes just 2 missionaries. And there were just 2 missionaries. You lived in a home with someone that they rented a room to you, and you had to have a bathroom, a separate bathroom. And the bathrooms were great. You go in there and they just have a shower and no hot water heater, but they have the water would go through this thing that you fill with alcohol, and you light it, and it would heat up the water a little bit with the alcohol. And it wouldn't last a whole shower, so you'd have to get the alcohol and go up there above it and squirt the alcohol in to make it whoosh up a little bit so you could rinse off. So it was that. Anyway, we lived with this lady. I don't know what the situation was. She had 2 children, and she was in her 30s, I think. But we lived in a room, and apparently she was almost a welfare type of thing, and so it was having the missionaries live there. She'd make enough money renting that room. Well, she didn't ever wash the dishes until she stacked them in the sink until she fixed more food for us, and she'd kind of scrape them off and wash them. And so we had dysentery a lot when we lived there. And this one time, my companion was sick, and so we went to another family, and there was a 11 or 12-year-old boy that we went on. He became my companion that day, so we went on splits, quote unquote. But my companion was home sick in the apartment, and I was out. We had 3 or 4 lessons, and the mission home called him and said, "Oh, I'm so glad you're home. Get Elder Whitney and stay inside. There's bad things going on tonight, and we're calling all the missionaries and get them out of the streets." And he said, "Well, Elder Whitney's out with this other boy, and they're doing lessons and stuff." And we had one lesson that was on the other side of town in my old area. We rode over there in a taxi, and this guy, the taxi driver, was driving not on the regular route, because I'd been over there a bunch of times and I knew the route. And I said, "I think this guy's trying to drive around a little bit and run the price up." But when we got there, it was like about 10 cents less than normal. So, oh, well, this is okay then. But I didn't recognize any of the streets. He kind of went through housing areas and stuff. And when we came back, the taxi driver also didn't go on the regular main streets. And we said, "Well, where do you want to go?" "Well, we have this one more lesson to give over here." So we went and gave that lesson over there. And then we were within walking distance of this young member's house. So I said, "Okay, well, I'll walk you home, and then I'll go back to my apartment." And so we walked down the street, and there was a big old crowd of people there, and they were just, and there was policemen and stuff, and this street is closed, and on and on. And I said, "Oh man, you go down there and turn right for your house?" He says, "Yeah." I said, "Well, let's do this. Let's go around. I'll show you when." There's a bus station there. So we went, like we get on the buses, and we jumped down off the buses. They loaded the buses up a level. So we jumped down where the buses drove and went out the back street. He says, this is, I go like this all the time, take this shortcut. And I said, "Okay, fine." And I could speak Spanish pretty good, but I wasn't fluent. But we were walking down the street, and I said, "Look at that!" And there was these Travelals, Chevy Travelals that were painted green, the Army, and there was men behind the Travelals pointed at this big old building up here with their guns pointed at the windows. And we said, "Man, look at that! Something's going on here." And we walked a little further, and there was more. They had machine guns stuff pointed at the windows. And then we got down near the corner, and there was a guy turned around, pointed a machine gun right at us, and said, "Stop! Who are you?" And I couldn't say anything. I was just like, ah, bah, 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 bah. And the member boy said, "Quick, take out your passport. Show him. This is an American. He's got a passport. This guy's an American. He's got a passport. We're fine." And so I took out my passport and showed them. They said, "Okay, get out of here." And they went right in. So I walked him home. Then I got home, and the phone rang, and it was the boy's mother. "Why did you take my son out and that kind of stuff?" She was giving it to me. And then the mission home called. And then the papers the next day, I still have them somewhere, that said there were 8 killed and 12 wounded at the shootout at that place. It was the communist mafia Frente Amplio location where the Tupumaros were, and there was a big shootout with the Ejército, the army. And so it was right in the middle of that, but the Lord blessed us. And, we had 3 good discussions, and later one of the people even got baptized. But we were driving around doing the right thing, and we were protected.